Here are foods that you don't want to give your baby when they are less than 1 year. Reason being that some foods are good for the babies, yes, but as per the pediatricians, there are foods that the baby cannot eat when they have not gotten to 1 year milestone. Reason being is that they're going to destroy their organs, because remember their organs are still developing because they are young. So for those reasons, these foods are rendered to be disastrous for the babies. Therefore, you really should not attempt to give them to them. Yeah, I understand when the baby gets to 6 months, they start feeding and all, but you are not supposed to give them these types of food irregardless. One, they do say that if you give the baby salt, it's going to destroy their lungs. However, when they get to 6 months, they start feeding, and you just can't give them food with no salt. Therefore, it is said that if you're going to give, if you really need to add that salt, you really need to add the Himalayan salt, because the Himalayan salt has a lot of nutrients and all that. That's what they say. But if you can, don't. Or if you really need to really add it in a very small portion. But if you can, just avoid giving them salt too. You really don't need. Actually, you should not feed your babies on honey. What do we call it? It does have a honey does have botulinum, which that is produced while it's being made, that always end up destroying the gut. But you see, honey is very natural, so every parent goes like honey is natural, especially for the parents who have already started making their homemade medicine. I was tempted to make that homemade cough syrup for the baby because you have to use the honey, but then they do say that it will destroy the gut. And if you've gone through the gut issues with any of the child, or any you've come across any child with gut problem, then you really understand taking care of that gut is really very important, because that is the basis of everything. Remember, when you destroy the gut, that is where the problem begins of all diseases. Before any disease attacks you, it always goes through the gut. So the gut always produces that what do we call it? It's not an hormone, but it always aids in most of actually all the diseases. So before you get sick, just know that it always begins at the gut. Yeah, just go do more research on that. So you ought to take care of your gut. That's when you know, that's when you realize if your kid or you yourself has gut issues. The moment you start treating that gut issue, everything always falls in place. Yeah, because gut plays a very important role in the body, in our bodies. So make sure you just don't avoid it at least till they get to 1 year. Then you can start at least even making that cough syrup, because especially at this season, a lot of kids are prone to have that cough, and all of us are tempted to make that homemade syrup. So, but if you can, just avoid honey. Also, cow's milk. This is the next thing that you're really not supposed to feed your kid. There's a pediatrician or a nutritionist who said we are crazy enough. We are the only crazy people, because we are the only people who like feed our kids milk from another animal. Like every other animal feed their own babies with their own milk, but human beings are crazy enough to feed their own babies with another animal's milk. So it's argued that you're not supposed to feed your baby with milk at all. At all. Even you see that milk that you give your babies when they are 1, 2, 3 years, up to maybe 10 years before bed, it's not even encouraged, by the way. They do say milk is not so good for kids. Like, you're supposed to feed your less than 1 year old breast milk, and they should feed to at least 2 years, which at this rate I know it's very impossible. But if you can, don't. However, they argue that some people argue that goat milk, camel milk, especially kids suffering from autism and these spectrums, they do argue that goats and camel milk really does help in their development. That is why it is so expensive, and if you have to buy it, you always have to book it in a specific supermarket, say Chandarana. That's the only supermarket I know that sells that, and it's very expensive. So they do say that that does help the kids. I don't know how true that is. If you use it, would you just maybe let me know? But yeah, they do say that it is very healthy for the babies. But now, as per pediatricians, they again say no, don't feed your baby any other milk, cow's milk. Just feed your baby, just breastfeed your baby. It's going to destroy the kidney. Now, also, if you live in Africa, Kenya, you understand that there is a tribe, the Maasais, they feed their kid on milk, and the kids survive on milk as young as they come. Yeah, and those kids are so healthy. They don't have diseases. They are healthy, like they are really healthy. So I don't know how true this is. I don't know if I should argue about science and all, or focus on the other side. But anyway, pediatricians as per now do not recommend milk for kids. If you can avoid the carbohydrates, avoid the any sugary thing. Yeah, that is a mistake I did make with our first daughter. But with the second one, no, that's not happening, because that is the basis of all the problems. Carbohydrates, sugars, it completely destroys the gut. This is whereby you'll find a kid cannot tolerate some food. A kid is not comfortable eating some food, and they can't stand it, and the problem continues. You end up even blaming, like they can even sleep and not eat, and sometimes you feel it's a kid's problem, but no, you destroyed the gut. So immediately you destroy the gut. The organisms there, they are used to feeding certain things. So when they are not fed, yeah, when they are not fed, that becomes a problem. That's why they cannot tolerate anything else, anything healthy, vegetables and all that. That's why you'll find these kids eating or snacking so much on sweets, indomies, things like those ones they eat perfectly. But when it comes to real food, they cannot stand it, because you destroyed that gut. So make sure you're not feeding your kid on sweets, anything snacky. Just if you can avoid, once a treat is not bad, but daily, consistently, that completely destroys. You want to feed them on high salted food, that is maybe the fish. So if you're going to feed your kid on fish, is very good for the baby. It's very healthy. When you give it to the baby, it really does help them. However, there are these types of fish that really have high levels of salts. I think they are fish from oceans and all. Yeah, avoid as much as you can. Just feed them the natural fish, because you want them to get those nutrients. But the ones that you can avoid right now, because again, the organs are still growing. You really want to run away from any processed food. This is not even for babies alone, even adults. But at this rate, you'd go to a supermarket, the fridge section, there's everything processed, from beans, from every food, you name it. Every food is processed. You just get it ready, just go warm it up or go microwave it, and you're good to go. Like, it's that bad. So as much as you can, um you want to avoid the processed food at all costs. Just get into get used to making your own homemade food on and make sure it's organic and it's balanced. Avoid anything that tells you this is good, this is nutritious and all. Anything that you've not made at home, just know that is a red flag in a diet or your kids diet. So make just make sure you always make your baby's food at home and make it fresh. Make sure it is always balanced. Also, you don't want to feed your kid on anything that's chalky. Those are the popcorns, especially if you have another kid or other children in the house. You'll find out sometimes you make snacks, but those snacks are not healthy for this baby. So as much as you can, things like popcorns, avoid them, because at the end of the day they're going to choke on it. Yeah, so avoid them. People that argue that raw eggs is very healthy. Yeah, people argue that raw eggs is healthy. This is something that you don't want to feed on your baby. You don't want your baby to feed on. Make sure that if you're giving them, eggs is very healthy for the babies, but make sure if you're giving it to them, make sure it's fully cooked. Yeah, don't go this process of feeding them sijui uh, raw eggs. Yeah, for the people who eat uh, eggs that are not fully cooked, don't feed that on the baby, because it's not going to help them. It's actually going to destroy them. And then before I forget, now that I mentioned the eggs, wait, forgetting, yeah, this goes without saying. And then something else I noticed, and it's something that I've been researching: when you go to kids nutrition and all, you are required to give your baby healthy fats. Yeah, that healthy fats, one of the healthy fats is the avocado. Now, if you will realize that every other time your kid does not have is underweight, is not eating, and you want them to have the required weight as per months or as per years, you always require to feed your baby on healthy fats. Now that is the avocado, but avocado is very disastrous, by the way. I'm saying this from a point of experience with somebody. Avocado is good when you don't give it to the kid continuously, but it's very bad if you give it on the baby continuously. They always end up adding extra weight. That you'll find this baby has gained weight, yes, but they cannot walk a long distance. They are panting so heavily, which is not healthy. So if you are one of the parents feeding your kids on avocado, bananas every now and then so that they gain that weight, really check on that. Go slow on it. Just feed them once in a while, or maybe balance it on a meal once in a while. Just don't go extra on avocado. Really be careful with avocado. Even as a grown up, you want to gain weight, go really slow. Yeah, and I think those are the food that you really ought not to feed on your kid on. Yeah, others goes without saying, things to do with any food that you feel your baby should not feed on. Just make them eat the natural food. Let them get used to feeding organic food that is prepared at home, that is balanced, and you love a very healthy baby. Just make sure you don't mess with the gut. Yeah, learn that the hard way. Just make sure you don't mess with that gut. And yeah, if you feel I've not mentioned any other food, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.